Welcome to the Coder Dojo. We are going to be finishing off our unicorn game today. As always, if you're watching this live, you can write in the chat. Make sure that everything you say is positive and encouraging. And if you are watching this as a recording, you can always skip forwards or pause me at any time. So we probably have already spent enough time waiting for everyone to arrive. So that's all good. What we're going to be finishing off today is we're going to be doing this background. So have a look at that background and you'll notice that there's actually more than one layer. This is called parallaxing. So obviously we've got, what's scrolling in the background? Everyone, let me know. What do you see scrolling in the background? Type it into chat. Thank you, Cool Trish. I have a bit of a BBC accent, it's true. Cool Trish says, could you... Oh, yes, link the game. Absolutely. So for everyone who... That's where we're up to so far. This, what I'm showing you, is what we're going to finish off today. So what we don't have yet, we don't have the gems working, and we don't have the background. So in the background, we've actually got 5 layers. There's the clouds. They're moving the slowest. Look at those clouds. They're moving very slowly. Then the buildings, they're moving a bit faster than the clouds. Then there are actually 3 layers of trees. All of them are moving at slightly different speeds. Like each layer that comes further forwards, that layer is what's the word I'm looking for? It's moving a bit faster. So this is called parallaxing. It gives this illusion that you have this cool background. That you have this sort of that things are further away. If when they scroll they move slower, like if there were mountains or buildings or clouds, they look like they're a lot further away than the trees, which move a lot faster. So you get this really cool 3D effect. Even though you don't actually have anything 3D going on, you give this impression of this 3D effect. So that's what we're going to be coding today. So let's get to the project. I've shared the link of where we're up to, so feel free to click on that link and select Remix. And once we are all there, then we will start doing some coding for our backgrounds. Okay. Just got to get my notes all nicely organized. And as always, if you need help with your project, just remember to share it and save it and remind me of your Scratch name. Anyone who's with me live, you can all get some help with your project if anything goes wrong. All right, so we are good to go. So first of all, we are going to make a tree sprite. And we're actually going to do something kind of cool with this tree sprite. So if you go to the bottom right corner, hover over that cat face where it says choose a sprite and click on choose a sprite. And then type in tree. Now we're actually going to choose this first tree. So now we've got this big tree here, and we are going to make a bunch of variations on this tree. So this is the cool thing with working with vector images. So everyone go to the top left corner and look where it says costumes. Click on costumes, and you should see that when you hover over all these bits of the tree, it actually highlights all the different shapes. So you might have used this button here, convert to bitmap or convert to vector. We want this to stay a vector because a vector image is made up of all these different shapes, which means we can move around the shapes. Once it's converted to a bitmap, it all becomes one solid image. It's not made up of shapes anymore. The whole thing is like turned into this one like photo or image. But with it being a vector, we can move around all of these cool shapes. So what we're going to do, in the top left corner, where you've got tree 1, right click on that and press duplicate. Top left corner, hover over the tree, little square where I'm wiggling my mouse now, right click and duplicate. And now you should have tree 1 and tree 2. So now on tree 2, just try moving around some of these shapes. And you can also rotate some of them if you want. And you can make sort of like these differently shaped trees. And then you can duplicate either one of the trees. It doesn't matter. You can duplicate this one and move them around again. So remember, you go to the costumes in the top left corner, you right click on one of them and you press duplicate. These are all going to be the different versions of the different trees that we are going to have scrolling around our game. So you can just move these around. When you've got them selected, there's a little arrow which allows you to rotate them. And you can spend more time than we have today on just like making your trees look nice. Rotating can sometimes be a bit of a mistake, I'm finding, because sometimes it just looks wrong. But make sure you don't move the trunk. That's kind of important. Don't move the trunk because we need that trunk to basically stay where it is. That's kind of fine. Let's duplicate this one again. So we're just going to keep doing a few duplications. You can duplicate as many times as you like. Might try and make like a sort of pine tree. That's kind of cool. Let's try duplicating this one. So yeah, this is just a nice cool thing that a bunch of Scratch images will let you do. Yeah, that seems kind of interesting. Oh, rotating can sometimes be a mistake, definitely. Moving them around generally looks better. How are you going with making your trees? Alright, so I've got, let's see, I've got tree 1, tree 2, tree 3, tree 4, tree 5. Doesn't matter which order they're in, because we're going to start randomizing these different types of trees. And you can make a bunch more trees if you want as well. So I hope you had a bit of fun making different types of trees there. What we're going to do now is we're going to make this create clones of itself. Just like we do with the skeletons. The skeletons make clones of themselves and they move from the right side to the left side. We're going to do the same thing with this tree sprite. We're going to make clones of the tree sprite and they're going to move from the right to the left. When they hit the left, they're going to delete themselves. And then we're going to do that. And it's going to look like this. All these different layers of trees. So we're going to do this 3 different times with 3 layers of trees. And we're also going to do it with the buildings and such as well. All right. So we've got our tree 1 sprite, and that's fine. We can just call this tree 1 because we're going to end up with some more layers than this. So for now, let's set up the code so that it's creating those copies of the trees. It's choosing random costumes of the trees. So you get different types of trees that look different. And that will give this impression of like a forest that's going past. Okay, so let's go to events. Hope you've finished up your trees for now. Grab when green flag clicked, drag that out. We're going to set up our main loop that makes all of the clones. So the first thing that we do, if you've made clones with me before in previous sessions, is we hide the original, because we don't want the original tree to be seen. We only want to see its clones. So everyone go to looks, look in the sort of near towards the bottom of the purple looks codes, look for hide, drag out hide and put it underneath when green flag clicked. Okay, so then we're going to go to events, or control I should say, and look for forever. Drag out forever and put it right underneath hide. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go to, actually, while we're here, we're going to grab out a create clone of myself. And then we are going to grab a wait 1 second and put that underneath the create clone of myself. They're both inside the forever loop. So we're going to be making clones. And we're going to be doing that forever as the game is playing. Okay, so now we should probably decide where the tree is going to go. So go to motion, top left corner, the dark blue category, and look for go to X and then a number, Y and a number. Drag that out, and we can put it inside the forever. That's probably fine. Yeah, we could put it above the forever as well, and it would probably also be fine, but it doesn't matter too much. So for now, click on that X, so that number, so my number says go to X 117. Yours might say something else. If you're familiar with coordinates, we want this number to send this tree all the way to the right of the screen. So I'm going to type in, so theoretically 240 is right on the edge. I'm actually going to type in 260. I'm not sure how if Scratch is going to make this, if it's going to go all the way to a 260, but it might go slightly off screen, which is kind of what I want. So just type in 260. And then where it says Y, just type in 60. So now we've got this go to X 260 and Y equals 60. And then what we need to do is, so we need to give some instructions to our clones when we make them. We want the clones, once they are made, to start moving from the right side of the screen and move all the way to the left side of the screen. Okay, so let's go to control. Let's grab out when I start as clone. Drag that out. And then we are going to go to looks. So these are what the individual cloned trees are going to do. Now, in a forest, all the trees are slightly different shapes, which we've already sort of done. We've made some different shapes of trees, but they're also slightly different sizes. So we can kind of create this sort of good-looking forest by having them not be quite the same size. So in looks, we're actually going to grab out switch costume 2, and then it'll be like tree 5, maybe, or something like that. Drag out switch costume 2, and then also set size 2, and so yours is probably going to say set color effect 2, or unless I'm looking at the wrong place. No, set size to. Yeah, set size to. That's what we need. Drag out set size to 100%. And then one final thing, because we've hidden the original sprite, we need these clones to show themselves. Otherwise, we'll never see them. So pull out a show. Okay, so we've got switch costume to set size to 100% and show. So let's get some chaos, shall we? Let's go to operators, the green category on the left. Have a look through those green codes. And we need to get a random number generator. That's about 5 down. You should see pick random 1 to 10. So we're actually going to need a couple of these. So drag out a pick random 1 to 10. And you should see that if you move it to the left side of it, just hovers over the tree 5 or whatever it says for you in switch costume 2. You should see it all sort of lights up in white, and you can let go and it goes inside. So now we've got switch costume to pick random 1 to 10. Now, how many trees do you have? I've made 5. I could make more later, but for now we have 5. So we need to switch costume to pick random 1 to 5. Pick random 1 to 5. Okay, now we're going to set the size to a slightly random percentage. So drag out another pick random and put that right over the 100 in the 100% in the set size to 100%. And we should now have set size to pick random 1 to 10%. That's probably a little too small. So type in the first number. Let's say 25, I think found worked pretty well. You can change all of these numbers later, obviously, if you want your trees to be bigger, if you want them to be in slightly different spaces, you can change all of these numbers. So set size to pick random 25% to 35%. No, not 345%, that'd be crazy. So set size to pick random 25% to 35%. So pick random 25 to 35. That seems good. And also while we're here, this wait 1 second in between making the clones of the trees, that's probably a bit too slow. Let's make that a bit smaller. So grab out pick random 1 to 10 and put it inside the wait 1 second. And click on the first number. Now we're actually going to make this shorter than 1 second. So type in 0.1. So that's a 0 and a full stop and a 1. And the second number goes 0.2. So we're going to be making lots of trees very quickly, which is fine because we want them to be appearing quickly because they're going to move fairly quickly. All right, so we've introduced some randomness. We've got our trees are being cloned, and we have them being slightly different every time we make a new tree. That's all good. What we need to do now is we need to make it so that the trees, after they've been cloned and after they do all this random stuff, they move across the screen and delete themselves when they get to the edge of the screen. Okay, so let's grab control. So everyone go to the orange category, control on the left, and drag out a repeat until. Drag out repeat until and put it underneath the show. That's in our when I start as clone code. So what we're going to do is we're going to make them move until they get to the left side of the screen, and then we're going to make them delete themselves. So that it looks like they've gone off the edge of the screen. Basically the same way we did with the skeletons. So look a little bit further down, you'll find delete this clone. Put that on the bottom, right underneath repeat until. And very similar to the skeletons, we're going to go to operators, and we're going to look for less than. If you know the symbol for less than, put it in chat now. So less than, the symbol is a arrow pointing towards the left. So if you look in operators, look about 7 down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, 7. And you'll see that there's an arrow pointing towards the empty space and then a 50 after it. Drag that out. And you'll notice this will fit nicely in after the repeat until. Put that inside there. All right, great. So what we need to do now is we need to ask the question, has this clone, this tree, has it gotten to the edge of the screen, the left edge of the screen? Because we don't want to delete them if they're only on the right side of the screen. It needs to be the left side of the screen. So if you know your coordinates, then what we have to do is we go to up to motion, the top left corner, the blue category, the dark blue category, motion, and then look all the way near the bottom and look for X position. This is basically a record of how far left or right this particular sprite is, this particular clone is. So drag out X position and put it inside that first gap, that empty gap. So now we've got repeat until X position is less than, then click on that 50 and type in minus 239. Because 240 is the leftmost part of the screen. We want to make sure as soon as it gets past that, it's going to delete itself. But in the meantime, it needs to move. It needs to move directly left. So look for change X by 10, drag that out, and put it inside the repeat until. Now 10, changing X by 10 actually moves the tree in the wrong direction. It's moving it right, and we want it to move left. And also it's a bit too fast. So let's click on that 10 and type in minus so that it'll move left instead of right, and then type in 6 for now. And you can change this if you want your game to look faster or slower, that kind of thing. Okay, so I think that's everything for now. Let's hit go. And you should have this nice line of trees. Now, the unicorn is actually going behind the trees. But we can fix this. We can fix that. But that's looking okay. So the other thing is that, so these trees, I quite like where they're spawning, but the unicorn is probably going a bit too high. So we're going to make some changes in the unicorn code to make it look like the unicorn is in front of the trees and not behind them. Otherwise it will spoil the this sort of parallax effect that we're going for. So go across to the unicorn, the player, I should say, whatever your player looks like. Mine looks like a unicorn, but yours can look like anything you like. And if you look at the move up code, you should have something that says define move up. Have a look. Now mine says if Y position is less than 70. That's the highest the unicorn can go. So 70 is the highest the unicorn can go, and we can actually make it so that the unicorn can't go that high by making that number smaller. So let's click on that 70 and let's try 50. This is going to be underneath define move up if Y position less than 50. So let's see how high. Yeah, that seems reasonable. I could make it a bit lower if I wanted, but I think that's probably okay. And now we have to make sure that the trees are at the right layer. So what we need to do is we need to go to looks, and we need to look for some code that says go to front layer. So if you go to looks and look all the way near the bottom, we've got go to front layer. So make sure you've got the tree selected. So we could put in some code. In fact, we might even do that. Yeah. Actually, go back to the player. Let's make sure that the player is always on the front. So when we talk about layers, we're talking about what is behind, what sprites go behind the others. So if one sprite, if they both touch, which one's on top? Just like if you're doing layers in like a scrapbook or something like that. Which one is closer to the screen? And so the front is closer to the screen, and the back is behind the other sprites. So grab out, go to front layer, and put that in the unicorn code right underneath when green flag clicked. Doesn't really matter which one. Just make sure that we've got go to front layer right underneath when green flag clicked. And the unicorn should now go in front of the trees. Yeah, that looks good. Now we've still got the skeletons who are also, actually, and also, what about our rainbows? Yep. So our rainbows are also going behind the trees, which looks weird. So what we're going to do is now we're going to select the trees. So with the trees selected, so you've probably done this before, but if you double click on a piece of the code on the left, like where I'm wiggling my mouse here, where we pull the codes out from, it will do that thing. So like if you double click on show, the tree shows itself and you can see the tree. If you double, it disappears again. So yeah, if I double click on hide, the tree disappears. Double click on show, the tree shows itself again. So what we can also do is where it says go to front layer, click on that little white triangle and select back layer and double click go to back layer. And let's hit go. And now we should find that everything, the skeletons and the rainbows and the unicorn, everything should now be in front of the trees, which is what we want. Okay, so you could put in your code if you wanted, code that set the layers of all the various things. Otherwise, come back to this looks category, look near the bottom, and either use go to back or front layer, or you can even say go forward one layer or go back one layer. And that way you can make sure that everything is layered the way you want it to be. That's probably the easiest way, to be honest, is just to like select what you want, go forward one layer, go backwards one layer, double click, make sure it moves the way that you want it to. And yeah, should be good. All right. So we've done our first tree layer, so we need to do 2 more. So we should be able to just, in the sprite window in the bottom right corner of your screen, where it says tree 1, right click on that, and then just normal click on duplicate, and you should end up with tree 2. And then duplicate it again, and you should now have tree 3. Now, if you make some more tree costumes, you might need to just update the other sprites, and there are other ways of doing this too. But for now, I think this is fine. So now we're going to have these 3 layers of trees. But what we need to do is we need to make it so that some of them are smaller and move slower so that they look like they're further away. So let's try that. Let's go to tree 2. So remember, we want them to be smaller and move slower. So look up for the set size to. So we've got set size to pick random 25 to 35. Let's click on that 25 and change it to 20. This is all in tree 2, remember? Then let's look at that 35, click on that and press 30. So now it should set size to pick random 20 to 30. And now we want them to move a bit slower. So the speed at which they move is that underneath repeat until change x by -6. Let's click on that -6 and type in -5. Okay, let's test that. Let's hit go. Okay, that's starting to look pretty good. And now let's add our third. Let's get our third layer sorted. So go to tree number 3 and look for set size pick random 25 to 35, and I think we should probably just go 15 and 25. Yeah, so type in 15 over the 25 and 25 over the 35. So now you should have in tree 3, it sets size to pick random 15 to 25. And we want it to move a bit slower again, so click on that change x by, and then type in -4. And now hit go. There we go. If I make this nice and big, now that looks really cool, doesn't it? And as I said, if your layers are a bit wrong, you can fix them by making them go forwards or back a layer. But if you've done it in the same order as me, I think you will be fine. So now we've got this cool sort of forest effect in the background. Okay. And you'll notice that these trees move at basically the same speed as the unicorn. Some of the trees move a little bit faster. You could change that if you wanted. You could make them move a little bit slower than the unicorn if you wanted. But I think this is quite a cool balance. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing with, we're going to copy this again. We're going to make a tree 4. So right click on tree 3, right click and press duplicate. But this time we don't want this to be trees, we want this to be buildings. So rename this sprite. That's in the middle right of the screen where it says tree 4 next to sprite. Rename to building. And what we're going to do is we're going to get some fresh costumes into this sprite. We're going to go to costumes. There's 2 ways we could do this. We could in fact, actually, do you know what? We will do it that way. Let's do this an easier way, shall we? Delete your building sprite. So one way that we could do is we could just add all the costumes in here, but I've realized there's an easier way to do this. So click on this little X to delete the building sprite in the bottom right corner. So now you should just have tree 1, tree 2, and tree 3. Now go to the bottom right corner, click on choose a sprite, that little cat face, choose a sprite, and type in building. Okay, that took a while for me. I was worried. I was like, where did my building go? And if we have a look at the costumes, we should have a bunch of different building costumes already. That's great. If you want, you can delete some of these costumes if you don't like them. Like if you don't like the big square costume, that's fine. In fact, I think I don't like this square one. So I don't like building G. It's too square. It's not going to be visible over the trees. So I'm actually going to click on building G and press the X button, the trash can button, in the costumes section. So now that we just have some nice tall buildings, but it's not important, that's optional. So now how many costumes do we have? We have 9, or you might still have 10, and that's fine. So 9 costumes. All right, so what we need to do is we're actually going to copy the code across from the tree code, the tree sprite, into the building sprite. So click on one of your trees. Doesn't actually matter which one right now. I'm going to zoom out here so we can see there are 2 blocks of code. Click and drag one of your blocks of code. So I'm going to start off with this when I start as clone code. And drag it so that your mouse goes right over the building sprite. And you'll notice that when you do that, the building sprite gives a little wiggle. Then if you let go, you notice the code hasn't disappeared from here, but if we go across to buildings, the code is there. So it's a very easy way of copying your code from one sprite to another. So again, we need to copy the other block of code, the when green flag clicked code, drag that over, pop it inside buildings, and you might need to just separate them out. So there we go. I'll just save my project as well if you're looking at my project. So now we have some code here that should make these buildings appear. Now we want them to appear a little bit higher. So to make it so that the buildings are a little bit higher, we need to look for when green flag clicked, look a little bit lower. We've got hide, then forever, then go to X, a number, 260, Y, and then a number. This Y number, if we make this number higher, the buildings will be they'll be higher on the screen. So let's try, what did I put before? Ooh, let's try 135 for now. We can change that later if we want. 135. And let's hit go. Okay, so immediately the buildings need to be sent to the back, don't they? So have a look under your looks code in the bottom left corner. Sorry, not bottom left corner. Look at your looks category, top left corner. Look near the bottom, just like we did before. Double click on go to back layer. If it doesn't say back layer, if it says go to forward layer, click on that white triangle, make sure it says back, and then double click on that. And now, great, now it's behind. Okay, so the buildings are coming by a little too often. They're a little too small, and they're moving a little too fast. So let's fix each of those things. So we've got this wait 0.1 to 0.2 seconds. So if we are looking at our code here, I'll put it up on the screen. Wait pick random 0.1 to 0.2 seconds. Let's click on that 0.1 and type in 1, and click on that 0.2 and type in 2. And the buildings should come along a lot less often. Now they're still moving a bit too quickly, aren't they? So what we're going to do is we're going to go across to our when I start as clone code, look down for change X by, and mine says -6, yours might say something slightly different. Type in minus, should we try 3? Let's try -2. That's even slower. Let's hit go. Ah, now these buildings, they look like they're really far away. Look at that. That's really cool. Now they're still a bit small, so let's make them a bit larger. And how have we been changing that? We've got our set size. So we might not even, in fact, what we're going to do is we're not going to make the buildings random. We're actually going to make them all the same size. And because I think that because there's enough variation in the buildings that I think it will look okay. So look at where it says set size to pick random, drag that pick random out of there and throw it away. Don't need it. So now you should have something that says set size to 100%. Click on that 100. Let's try 50. Type in 50%. As I said, you can experiment. You could try 75, see what it looks like. If you prefer it, then keep it with your numbers. The other thing as well is that we've got switch costume to pick random 1 to 5. We've got 9 buildings. So click on that 5 in pick random 1 to 5 and type in 9. All right, let's see what this looks like now. Okay, these buildings look pretty cool. They are... We could maybe make them a little bit higher, I think. They maybe look like they're a little bit low, in my opinion. So let's have a look at the code. How do we make the buildings sit higher on the screen? We come back across to our forever loop. Look at go to X 260, Y 135. Let's try clicking on that 135 and type in 145. Let's try that. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Yeah, that looks pretty cool. I like that. So yeah, those buildings look like they're really far away. So if you had graphics of mountains, you could use like mountains in the background there and have them move very slowly. Okay. And these numbers might be slightly different for me and for you, because remember the positioning of how much ground you made and how much sky you made. It's going to be different in your game than it is in mine. So when I say, oh, move it a bit up, move it a bit down, you can look at it and go, oh, no, I'm happy with this for my game. Like, it looks perfect where it is. Or, I actually want to move it down. So just extrapolate from what I'm saying. You can move your objects around. Hopefully, the way that I'm explaining this, you'll be able to tweak the numbers yourself so that you're getting what you want in your game. All right, so we've got one more part of our parallax background, and then I think we probably won't have time for gems, but what I will do is I will post the gem code in this version of Laser Unicorn Attack, and that way you can check out this code. I'll put it in the comments for this video, and you can go and see the code that I did to make the gems, and you can think, oh yeah, I can do that, because I mostly just use the same kind of code for the parallaxing, the background stuff, very similar to the same code we used for the skeleton as well, but just made it so that there's a variable, which is we've already got the score variable, but just made it so that the gems, when you pick them up, when you touch them, when the player touches the gems, they disappear. They give an extra point to the player, that kind of thing. And there's a few other nice things that we could put in this game as well, like having the player flash briefly every time they get hit. So I might put a few other little secret bits and pieces into the final version of the game. So feel free to check out this video again, or if you're watching this not live, just go down to the comments and check out my project. You'll see the Scratch project might have a few little extra bits for you that you can adapt into your game as well. All right, so the final thing we're going to do today is the clouds. So go to choose a sprite, bottom right corner. Oh, a cat coming to say hello. Now there's actually, if we type in cloud, there's actually two different types of clouds we can have. So you can have all of the clouds if you want. So what we're going to do for now is we're going to choose these flat clouds because they look kind of cool. So where it says clouds with an S, click on that. And if you go to costumes, if you want to, go to the bottom left corner, click on choose a costume, type in cloud, and you'll notice there's this big bulky cloud. you can click on that one, and now you've got this big bulky cloud as well. So now you've got like a lot of variety with your different clouds. But that's optional. But just make sure you know how many costumes you have in your sprite, because we're going to need that for the code. So we're going to do the same thing that we did to get the code into the buildings. In fact, we're going to drag the code from the buildings into the clouds. Drag that across and drag, so you get the whole code. You always got to grab a block of code from the top, not from the middle or from the bottom. Always grab it from the top of where you want. Drag it over the clouds until your mouse is over the clouds. It will give a little wiggle that you might be able to see, and then let go. And you should have the code still in the buildings sprite, but now it's also in the cloud sprite. So what do we need to change here? Well, let's have a look at switch costume to pick random 1 to 5 to 9. We need this to be pick random 1 to 5. So we can have set size to the same size clouds if we want, or you can have pick random in there if you want. I'm going to put a pick random in there. I'm going to drag out pick random 50 to 75%. You can just leave it at 50% if you like, that's fine. Let's see, and we also want the clouds to move even slower than the buildings. So we look and see where it says change x by -2. Click on that -2 and type in -1. Okay. And let's see. What we're going to do is we're going to make these clouds get created even slower, even more gradually, so there aren't that many clouds in the sky. So if you come across to when green flag clicked, you should have this, let's see, we've got hide, that stays the same forever. Then go to X, 260, we still want that because they're going to the right side of the screen, that's fine. We could, if you look at this Y, which currently says 145 for me, we could put a pick random over that 145 if we wanted. We could put a pick random into the Y so that the clouds are slightly higher and slightly lower. I mean, obviously you don't want the buildings to do that because otherwise you end up with floating buildings, but the clouds can do that, that's fine. Clouds already float. So we could type in maybe pick random 130 to 160. So put that in the Y on our go to X 260, Y pick random 130 to 160. Create clone, that stays the same. Now this is the other thing that we change. Wait pick random 1 to 2 seconds. Click on that. And we're going to change it to 4 to 5 seconds. 4 to 5. Pick random 4 to 5 seconds. All right. And the clouds might be in front of things, weirdly. Yes. Now here's an interesting decision. No, you can see immediately it looks wrong, doesn't it? Because the clouds are in front of the buildings. Yeah, that just doesn't work. So how do we make them go to the very back so that they're layered on the very back of our game? We go back to looks. We scroll down for go to back layer. Double click on that. Make sure you've got clouds selected. And now you should have these nice clouds that spawn behind the buildings and slowly move across the sky. So have a look at the code, have a look at the numbers, and have a bit of a play around. See if you want to change those numbers. See if you want to make the clouds move in a different way or come around less often, whatever you like. But basically, that's the game. That's the game finished. We've got our score. We've got our parallaxing backgrounds. I'll include some extra stuff in the final version of the game that you'll find in the link down below in the comments. I hope you've had fun with this one. Has anyone hadn't run into any problems? Let me know if you have. We can fix them on the stream before I head off. In the meantime, just remember that we run these every Thursday at 4 p.m. So the next one is next week. And if you tune in live, as always, I can help you with your code live on the stream. Otherwise, I always put them up on YouTube so they can be watched later as just a YouTube video. The next game we're going to be making. So I've had a special request, I believe from Aiden, if I'm remembering his name correctly. He's asked if we can make a version of Battle Cats. I don't know if you guys have played Battle Cats before, or a game like Battle Cats. It's kind of like a tower defense game. It's like a 2D game where you're summoning monsters that move across to attack other monsters and attack like an enemy base. So I'm working on that, but it's not yet finished. It's going to be quite an interesting challenge to make that work in Scratch and still have it be simple enough to be playable. So I think next week we're going to actually do Space Invaders. Now we did a sort of something that I called Space Invaders before, but if you've played actual Space Invaders, you've got all the enemies all lined up, all moving in like a big grid, and we never did that before, and that's something that I've been playing with recently, and I've coded it, and I'm really happy with the way that it works. So we're going to do next week, we're going to code a true Space Invaders game, a proper Space Invaders game. So I'm really looking forward to that. And then after that one, which will take maybe 1, maybe 2 sessions, depending on how complicated it is. Then after that, we're going to try making Battle Cats in Scratch. So if you have any suggestions, if you have any feedback, or if you have any requests for games, feel free to contact me through Scratch. Otherwise, feel free to leave a comment on this YouTube video. As I said, 4 p.m. every Thursday we do these streams. And if you subscribe and ring the bell, you'll know when the next stream is coming and what it's about. If you look in the description, we've got a link to our Eventbrite page, so you can see what physical programs are coming. All the school holiday stuff is up on Eventbrite now, so if you check that out, you'll see all the cool stuff that's happening in the library during the school holidays. And we've got some coding events that are coming up. We've got some Sphero Robotics stuff that's coming up. We've got some Dungeons and Dragons, lots of fun, cool, geeky stuff that I love. So I'm looking forward to the school holidays. We've even got some really cool stuff like fire spinning workshops as well. So yeah, a lot of stuff going on in the libraries in the school holidays, and that's also where you'll see when we start up our coding programs, after school programs